Hello.
Hi there.
Welcome to another one of our horror reviews.
Yes, indeed.
I'm Randy.
And I'm Steve.
And this is X.
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 The one and only X.
X.
There's actually another X movie I found out, but I've never seen it. I didn't even know existed until I looked up movie posters and stuff, and it popped up. So I guess I don't know if it's any good or what it's about even. It doesn't sound like I really like this movie, but interesting. I think they actually copycatted the poster, which is weird too for one of the posters, but yeah, anyhow. This is the first actual movie, technically, that was filmed in the trilogy. In fact, this is before anyone knew there was going to be a trilogy, let alone a sequel, or dare I say a prequel. This came out in March of 2022. I was out of state, did not hear of it until I came back from a trip, a long trip. Side story, anyhow, when I finally came back, I was binge watching horror movies. I heard about how crazy this movie was, and I was like, oh my gosh, it looks really interesting. I want to go see it. And I watched this movie, and I instantly fell in love with this movie, and it is probably my favorite movie of 2022, if not in my top 5 of the year. This movie was fantastic, and I think it has a good following and it has a good reputation, but I think some people put it underwhelmingly lower because of how good Pearl is. It washed out this movie, I think, because they came out and technically they're part of the same trilogy, so I think that maybe washed out this one when it came out, not just because of the performance of Mia Goth, which I think is sort of a crime because they're both really good. And in some ways, I like this one better, and this is my favorite of the trilogy, which we'll get into in a second. So.
Yes, X is, I don't know, it was one of those movies you watch and it was has a Texas Chainsaw feel.
Yeah.
But it's not Texas Chainsaw.
It also dealt with things. One thing I think this movie did very uniquely is Ty West, honestly, and Mia Goth on this trilogy. Amazing work, all 3 movies. But what they did with this one I really liked is they took a modern kind of grindhouse slasher. So I talked about how Pearl was, in part 2 of our Pearl review, I talked about the genre of Pearl. I'll talk more about the genre of this one later, but it is sort of like a grindhouse slasher comedy horror film.
Like a 70s film.
It's like a 70s grindhouse comedy slasher. With some taboo stuff too, and also very daring for its time, considering that there's actual, borderline you see TNA in this movie.
What's TNA? Oh, okay.
I'm not gonna say it, but you see you almost see everything. You almost see everything in this movie. And it's basically about this group of kids that are going to shoot a adult film picture. I'm not going to say what that actually translates to. Out in rural Texas. Kind of like an Airbnb situation before Airbnbs was a thing back in the 70s at Pearl and Howard Douglas's barn house. They have the little barn place and the little
like an extra cabin.
They have a cabin out there or whatever you call it, and they shoot some scenes in the actual barn house too, but they shoot it in that little cottage place. I guess it's like a cottage.
Yeah.
And in the barn, and they're renting out and the owners have no idea what's going on here. They left it anonymous because they didn't want to upset them. And basically, one thing. Oh, I got so off track.
No, you're explaining the movie.
I know I am, but I was going to talk about what I liked about this movie too. Is that this is a slasher grindhouse movie that, going back on my point, that actually gives us characters that we care about and gives them all distinct personality types. This is, I think, in my opinion, I feel can argue Pearl, but I'm going to argue X has the strongest cast of the 3 movies, because as much as Pearl had really top level acting, X had all these really interesting, funny dynamics, and they had all these dynamics with her. It wasn't just with Mia Goth, it was Mia Goth with these other characters and those characters with each other. And with the old couple, I think Mia Goth as an old woman, I think people underrate her performance as an old woman just because of how she played her as a young character.
So basically, Mia Goth plays two characters in this
Yes,
movie.
if you didn't know, Mia Goth is actually old Pearl as well as young Pearl. She is young Pearl in Pearl, and she is old Pearl in X. And I absolutely loved her in both movies. As both characters. Well, I love her as both characters, but I love her as the character and as an old character and a young character. I think she plays this in this one. If you going into this as
anyways, he's yeah. Anyways,
I mean, you got to decide.
The movie is about this group of people, like you said,
yes, I said
goes to film this movie.
Yes.
And slowly throughout the movie, like the old characters, Pearl and her husband Howard,
going to killing spree.
Like, well, yeah,
they get jealous. Pearl is a horny.
They just like they're like
old
curious. Woman. They're curious.
Well, they're curious, and Pearl sees Mia Goth as this character that she sees as almost like she sees herself as a mirror image of her. Like there are two sides of the same. There are two different sides of the same coin. They both had dreams. They both wanted to be famous of sorts. They both had an interest in the taboo, even though Pearl's ambition did not even deal with the taboo. She had an interest in adult content, and even has a physiological curiosity when it comes to sex and different things. If I can say that.
But she starts killing all of them.
She kills them all because she feels like she's jealous of what they're doing. She's
jealous
she's
because
upset.
She wants to be the star.
She's upset that, these, and also
you find out why she's upset when you watch Pearl.
And especially, it gives her more meaning.
It gives her more meaning.
It gives her more meaning. That's what some people say about Pearl too. I like it better, but and also you find out why she doesn't like blondes, which in this one you find out she does not like blondes with Bobby Lynn. In fact, that's probably one of my favorite characters in this movie too. It is.
Oh yeah, you got an all-star cast.
You got
Martin Henderson,
Kid Cudi. You have
Jenna Ortega,
Mia Goth, and
Brittany Snow.
Brittany Snow. That's it. Yes.
Yes.
That's what I was gonna say. And Brittany Snow's character as Bobby Lynn.
Brittany Snow is good.
She's
iconic. She hasn't been in a
iconic.
horror movie in a while, and I like her in horror movies.
I love her in general. She is funny.
She was in Prom Night remake.
She's so funny, and she's such such an underrated gem in this cast. Her interactions and the way she delivers her lines and her whole energy in this movie is just phenomenal. She even has a singing chops, which she actually delivers. That's one thing I love about this too, is she actually gets to sing "Landslide" by Fleetwood Mac. Yeah, she gets to do a cover of that song, and it's beautiful. Like, she has a beautiful voice. And it's this montage of like her singing and like them singing after they just talked about what the difference between adult film and real life relationships are, and then it shows Pearl like trying to be her old self, and it's talking in the song lyrics. If you know the song lyrics, it makes perfect sense of what's going on. Especially if you've seen Pearl, you understand what's going on in Pearl's head when she's, it's right before she starts killing people too. Because the killings don't start until like the end chapter. It's really just her kind of staring at them, having interesting dynamics with Maxine, and like the dialogue and whatever. And I think this movie does a great job of setting up suspense too. Pearl wasn't much reliant on suspense. I'd also say this is a suspense film too. Pearl was not about suspense. Pearl was about like just emotion. This was about suspense, about grindhouse horror comedy. There's a lot of funny interactions with characters. There's like the build up. You kind of wonder what's going to happen to these characters. You wonder what these old people are. You wonder who the real threat in this movie is. Is going to be the husband, and who's this old woman on the barn, and then in the farmhouse, whatever.
Yeah.
It especially if this is the first movie I saw, like even with me, even though I saw Pearl's the first one I saw in theaters, but I still saw this first. So even though technically Pearl's a prequel, this came out first. So they kind of set up as like, if you watch this one first, it's a mystery of who this character is. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I liked
we'll
watching
get to that
too.
in part 2.
Yes, but we're almost out of time already, I guess. So I love this movie, and I'm so excited to talk about it more.
We'll do part 2 coming up next.
Coming up next. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.